Okay then, hello Year 10, welcome to your first home learning lesson of the spring term. Today we are going to be looking at, and across this week in fact, we are going to be revisiting some of those paper 1 skills that you looked at towards the end of last term. So just to recap them, paper 1 is 80 marks in total, 40 marks are on a reading section, 40 marks are on a writing section. For paper 1, it's creative writing. Okay, so what you do then is you get one fictional text that you have to look at, you have to explore, you have to analyse, you have to do some evaluation. It's just a singular text, it's a fiction text, not like paper 2 where of course there's 2 non-fiction texts. And today your task is going to be to complete a question 1 and 2. Now in the Google Classroom, your teachers will have also attached for you a PowerPoint which has detailed instructions to the task. So don't just use this video, you'll have to go away. In fact, you can't just use the video, you'll have to go away in fact and look at the PowerPoint. That will have lots of extra guidance on it. It will have some writing frameworks, some self-assessment, sort of guides for you. And it's also got a bit of a starter task as well. So there's going to be 4 tasks in total, sort of 5 tasks really in total that we're going to be doing today. And as you'll see here, if I just move this away, the first one is we're going to ask you to do a 3-wall writing. So that 3-wall writing is on the slides, on the PowerPoint. It's the second slide. It's a lovely jungle scene. There's lots to write about. There's lots of sort of hidden imagery in there. Some things that maybe aren't as obvious that you could select to focus on. There's 3 rules as usual. If you get stuck in any of those, your teachers can sort of answer questions, because off the top of my head I can't remember what those rules are, and the teachers can answer those questions for you in the Google Classroom chat. I think it'd be quite a nice idea to spend 5 minutes sort of really re-accessing those creative writing skills, because of course you're going to be analysing in the text today how the writer has created meaning through their language, okay, and sort of how the language they've used sort of shapes this sort of vivid image for us. So if you haven't looked at the PowerPoint, now's a good time to go and do that, and I would spend 5 minutes, maybe pause this video, and I'd spend 5 minutes just sort of really sort of thinking about and creating a really focused, engaging, descriptive piece of vivid writing. Okay, task 2 then is going to be to read the extract as a whole. I would just read it once. In the exam, once these skills are embedded and ingrained, you'll probably want to do it with a highlighter and sort of think about highlighting for the questions as you go. You might want to still do that today. Certainly if you feel confident enough and you can remember what those skills are, then I would do that. I would perhaps take a highlighter with me anyway and go through and highlight things that I think are going to be important, even if you can't quite remember the skills, just so you're actively thinking already about what you might be trying to get out of this text. Then your task 3 is going to be to complete question 1. Now question 1 is always to state 4 things from the text. It will ask you to state 4 things, or list 4 things about something from the text. And again, guidance for that question is attached to the PowerPoint, so please make sure you're using it, and the question itself will be on there. I don't have the question here. You'll need the PowerPoint for the question, as well as, and the text will be on Google Classroom for you as well. Okay, what we're going to focus on here though in this video, really, that's just to sort of give you an overview of what you need to do before we get to this stage. We are going to be looking at how the writer has used language to describe the T-Rex in this question. It's going to ask you, and again, this is all on the PowerPoint, all on the attached question sheet and extract. It's going to be between lines 16 and 26. We're looking at how the writer has used language to describe the T-Rex. Now, as always, language questions are going to be 8 marks. Okay, that's not a wealth. That's not just Mr. Woods at the window there. That's not a wealth of writing. It needs to be short, it needs to be precise, it needs to be concise. Okay, you haven't got time to write 4 introductory sentences. Okay, what we really want to do here, now this is really key, and I'll write it down, is you really want short evidence, short quotations. How many of those do we want? Well, really, we probably want to write. We probably want about 4. But in order to access that sort of array of evidence, that range of evidence, I would maybe highlight for more than that as we go. So when we highlight this, or when I take you through the highlighting of this now, we'll we'll look for more than 4. In each of those quotations then, and this is really important, you need to identify the method the writer has used. Now, again, if you're struggling with methods, your teacher can help you out on the chat on Google Classroom. But these are things like, your metaphors, your similes, adjectives, verbs, the language the writer is using, okay? They are your methods here in a language question. What are the language methods the writer is using? Now, what we need to avoid, and I'm sure your teachers have told you this before, is we don't just want to identify methods. We don't want to say this is a simile. I don't care if it's just a simile. What we really want to know, okay, you do need to identify what the method is, but we really need to know what the effect is, okay? So why has the writer used that method, okay? What is the effect of that method they've used? Why have they used that particular feature, okay? So you're then going to need to write about this, and that is going to make up a part of today's lesson. You're going to do this after we've sort of gone through and annotated it here. But in order to give your argument or your piece of writing some clout, some sort of clarity, some sort of to demonstrate you really have engaged with what the task is asking, you're going to need to start with a big idea, okay? Now, again, I'm sure this is not a foreign concept to you, but you need a big idea to start to kick things off, okay? Now, what you're going to need to do with that big idea is, you're thinking about what is the overall intention. Okay, what is the overall intention of the writer? Okay, what is the overall intention? What are they trying to do? Now, as you can see here, the question is saying, how has the writer used language to describe the T-Rex? Now, a T-Rex, you've probably already in your head, you can probably think of some connotations of a T-Rex, can't you? Think of their size, okay? They're large. They're a bit more than large. They're imposing, okay? And they're so big, this might lead to a sense of fear. Think about their features, okay? They've got sharp teeth. They're predators, aren't they, okay? They have to be aggressive to stay at the top of that food chain, okay? They can be violent, Think about if we saw one in the wild, in fact, they might be, something like awe-inspiring, wouldn't they, Imagine seeing a T-Rex in the wild. It'd be mental. So think about all of these. You might want to start with that. Think about some of the connotations of T-Rexes, because what that does is that starts building up your vocabulary, okay? Because obviously when we annotate them, we're going to need that sort of large. We don't want to say it's scary. That's no good, is it? We want to think about its violence, its aggression, the fact it's imposing, it's awe-inspiring. These are much greater pieces of vocabulary. Okay, right. Let's read through the extract then. There we go. Sorry, let's sort my tripod out. Let's read through the extract together. So, it came on great, oiled, resilient, striding legs. It towered 30 feet above half of the trees. A great evil god folding its delicate watchmaker's claws close to its oily reptilian chest. Each lower leg was a piston, 1,000 pounds of white bone sunk in thick ropes of muscle, sheathed over in a gleam of pebbled skin like the armour of a terrible warrior. Each thigh was a ton of meat, ivory and steel mesh. And from the great breathing cage of the upper body, those 2 delicate arms dangled out front, arms with hands which might pick up and examine men like toys, while the snake neck coiled. And the head itself, a ton of sculptured stone, lifted easily upon the sky. Its mouth gaped, exposing a fence of teeth like daggers. Its eyes rolled ostrich eggs, empty of all expression save hunger. It closed its mouth in a death grin. It ran, its pelvic bones crushing aside trees and bushes. Its taloned feet clawing damp earth, leaving prints 6 inches deep wherever it settled its way. Now, there is loads in there for you to unpick. I'm going to unpick a couple for you here, and just sort of maybe some of the things you might not usually have thought of, but there is loads here for you to unpick. There are a wealth of similes. There is a wealth of metaphorical language, a wealth of figurative language. Now, in terms of that big idea, again, I think there's a few angles you can go down. I think you could focus on its overall malevolence. I think you might want to say that the writer seeks to present how the T-Rex is maybe that sort of the embodiment of aggression or of violence, okay? You might want to talk about how the writer seeks to, his overall idea is to evoke fear. Okay, you might want to sort of talk about how the writer is trying to demonstrate the insignificance of man, okay? Or you might just want to focus on the idea of it's demonstrated to be an aggressive predator, okay? You know, there's not a right answer here. This is all about interpretation. It's all about going with what you really think the writer is trying to achieve here, okay? So, like I said, there's lots here. Please don't just use the evidence that I'm picking here. I'm going to pick out a few examples for you, but what I would really do is use some of your own. Try and be original, you know. You've got to think that everyone's going to be doing this question. You want to really stand out with some of your interpretations. So, let's think then. What really stands out to me, now this again, like I said, this might not be an obvious one, but what I think here is you've got sort of the repetition of ton. Now, the reason this stands out to me is for a couple of reasons. So certainly a method that we might identify within that is we've got repetition. Sorry, if I just move the camera a little bit. We've got repetition. Okay. Now, I'll be honest with you. If someone says to me it weighs a ton, that just has, to me, connotations of incredible weight. I couldn't actually tell you how much a ton, what the weight of a ton is. But I do know that if someone says something weighs a ton, they mean it to be really heavy. Now, this is also emphasised by the monosyllabic ton, isn't it? Think about how heavy that word is. Okay, so it's monosyllabic. Okay, it's, you know, that's got weight to it, that word ton. You know, I'm tired saying it. It's, you know, I can feel the heaviness. So what I might focus on is that dinosaur's size and its weight. You know, we can't comprehend how heavy it is because, again, ton, you know, people say ton to mean something just really heavy. And that repetition emphasizes the weight, the heavy nature of the dinosaur, of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Okay, its imposing nature. I also might focus on its sort of complete alien features. Okay, look, we've got here, again, the adjective oiled. The adjective here, oily. Okay. You've got to think here, like, you know, oil is this, it's mechanical. It's like machinery. So, I've got mechanical, like machinery. Okay. So again, sort of suggesting, and look here again, this adjective here, reptilian. You know, it's almost like, so, you know, oily suggests something like a machine, but reptilian suggests it's like it's a life form, it's something living. So we've got these like contradictions, haven't we? Okay, oily and reptilian sort of really contradict each other in terms of oily. We've got the machine connotations, reptilian something living, and it demonstrates its sort of its lack of human features. Okay, which again, how do we feel about something with lack of human features? It creates the idea of the unknown. Again, which links to this idea of fear. Okay, so there's some sort of like less obvious ones. What you might want to focus on, if you think about some sort of more, maybe some more significant ones, we might want to focus on the simile here. A gleam of pebbled skin. This is a glorious line. A gleam of pebbled skin, like the armour of a terrible warrior. Now we all know, don't we, that using like or as to compare two things is a simile. Okay, let's think about what the effect of that simile is. Well, it's saying the skin is like the armour of a terrible warrior. Now, if someone's got armour, it means they're protected. It maybe suggests this dinosaur is indestructible. Okay, we might want to focus on the adjective terrible. Okay, you know, and a terrible warrior. I almost think that's sort of a bit of an oxymoron there, isn't it? Because those two things seem to contradict each other, which suggests the dinosaur has the strength of a warrior, but then some more evil and malevolent qualities. Okay, so it's just this idea of malevolence again. Okay, so look, I've just picked out a few for you there. That there's lots in there. Okay, where it talks about examining men like toys. There's a simile there, isn't there, to sort of emphasize how it makes man feel insignificant. There is a wealth of language examples in there. I am not going to do anything more than that. I'd like you to give that a go on your own now. You can use some that I've got to start you off, but remember, think about that big idea to begin with. What do you think personally? There isn't a right answer here. It's interpretation. How do you interpret what the writer is intending to achieve? Then select. Honestly, look, there's so much in here. You've got some time, within this hour. I would select 6 quotations to analyse for method and effects. Maybe use a couple of mine to start with and then go off on your own, because there's so much there. Then you're going to write your response. Now, it's an 8 marker. We've talked about this in class. That is 10 minutes in the exam. Again, if you've got a little bit more time left over within the hour, you might want to spend a little bit longer on it, but I would not spend any longer than 15 minutes. That is your absolute maximum, because you're never going to have that amount of time to spend on it in the exam. So the absolute maximum of 15 minutes. Okay, then on the PowerPoint, there is a self-assessment slide, okay? You can what we would like you to do over the course of the week is to self-assess your work, give yourself a mark. That will give you an overall mark out of 40 at the end of the week, and you'll be able to actually give yourself a grade. And then what we can do as teachers is we can verify that. We can then mark the work to sort of see what. So you'll have an idea of what your self-assessment was like, and we'll also be able to give you some feedback with our own marks. Okay, so give that a go. Good luck. Your next lesson is going to be on question 3. It's a structure question, and that will be mainly with Miss Murray. But yes, good luck. Any questions, please ask your teachers in your Google Classroom chat feed. Thank you very much.